What news, if any, do you read or watch?
Nearly all the news, BBC News, ITV News, 5 Live at night, right?
Okay.
And World News on radio at night.
Daily Mail, newspaper, just the general news on television, magazines, and that's it really.
Okay.
BBC News.
Okay.
Yeah.
Probably BBC News, differing papers, The Times or The Guardian, and different websites.
Okay.
Mainly just the Sun, Star, and
I listen to the Radio 4 news sometimes, and I watch the news on television.
Local newspapers.
Often read the papers, just the local papers.
I always end up watching the news on the TV due to my nan. I don't read the newspapers because I find the articles overly exaggerated. And I just find the media needs to be shot.
Are the stories you read or hear about young people negative or positive?
Mostly negative.
A mixture really, I'd say a mixture. But there is positive, there is positive stories as well.
I'll say a bit of both.
Okay.
Bit of a mixture really. I mean, there is negative press, but not very often is there positive, I don't think.
There tends to be a mix. The only time I hear sort of positive news about young people is when they've saved someone from drowning or they've done some heroic incident, but generally the news tends to be quite negative.
Most negative.
Lots of them are negative.
It's a mix, but generally most news stories are negative.
That's
stories.
right, the headlines are
stories.
always the negative ones.
Majority of news about young people are negative.
Unfortunately, in the last few weeks, a lot of it has been negative. But then you've got a cultural breakdown throughout the country.
Have you ever been affected by the behaviour described in the media?
No.
No?
not really, no.
Yeah, I used to live in a very rough part of Birmingham. A lot of kids used to congregate across the road, and our house was more or less destroyed. We were given a police escort from the place, and then they tried to burn our house down.
In an incident where I was driving through a certain town later, well not too late at night, it was about 8:30, and I came across a load of youths bullying one particular boy. And obviously it was my reaction to do something, but of course my own safety I didn't, but there was a police car following up behind, so that affected me quite deeply. I think that does happen even nearby here.
Okay.
To be honest, if somebody's going to be antisocial, it doesn't matter what age group they are. You get antisocial teens, you get antisocial people in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s and 80s.
And working with teenagers, you always know that you've got the majority of really nice people to work with, but you also know that there are a few who can be real pains in the neck.
I was living in a bus. My parents had a caravan. The caravan was destroyed. My bus was destroyed. I've had the tyres let down on the truck twice. Lights cut off and nicked.
What's the last story that you can remember about young people in the media?
Nothing bad that I can think of. In most cases, a lot of them spend their time trying to help other people, and they're put down by the media.
In the last couple of days, the 11-year-old, 9-year-old beating those two kids up for their pocket money.
Okay.
I read something in the paper yesterday about young scouts going to a rescue, certain other people, so the scouts.
2 young teenagers had been arrested for a serious assault on 2 other teenagers, one of whom died.
What do you consider to be a fair portrayal of youth in the media?
It's more negative than it is positive. I don't think it gives enough of a rounded view.
I think you've got to look for the positive. I think in the paper there's a lot of negative attitude, but I think if you really look deep, there is more of a positive attitude.
That they shouldn't judge all the teenagers as the same type.
Okay.
I think the media will always focus on the negative, so because people are not really interested in good news, So that's why it may appear that things are much more negative than they actually are.
I don't think any of it's fair because they'd edit it. And they edit it according to what they want to portray.
It's the same with anything. There's very little balance as far as general issues in the news are concerned. Politics, young people's issues, or even older people's issues. It tends to be very unbalanced and very biased.
Fair portrayal in the media. Do the media do fair portrayal?
A fair portrayal would be the truth, but truth doesn't always sell.
Do you think that the portrayal in the media affects other people's behaviour?
I think it does. I think some older generations seem to get a general idea that, you know, if they see a group of young people together, that they're up to no good.
Yeah.
But sometimes it isn't that at all. Sometimes young people just like to get together in groups just for the social thing.
Yeah, because then everyone gets, like, the feeling, there's a teenager in the street, let's stay away from him because he's going to mug us.
Does it inspire fear? Or?
Absolutely,
Yes.
I think.
Mainly because there are a lot of people out there that will listen to the news, watch it, read about it, and they will take a lot of it on board, and the majority of the population of people will believe it.
What sort of people do you think the portrayal of youth in the media affects?
It definitely does, yeah. I think people get often a confused message of what young people are about. But I think it's also a question of also where people live and how they're affected by where they are. You know, sometimes people do live with these situations that are in the media. They live with them every day, and in other places there's nothing like that. So
Young and old, well, I think it affects everybody.
Like the ones that are more vulnerable.
Regardless of whether the media is fair or not, do you believe the portrayal is accurate?
Not always. I don't think it's always accurate, no.
Okay.
it's very difficult to say because every journalist has his own bias. So it'd be very difficult for me to say it was accurate. I would say, like anything, you've got to take it with a pinch of salt.
It is when it's documents about individual cases. However, it doesn't give a balanced view about youth in general.
No, I don't believe it's accurate. I think a lot of TV companies and what I think they've got their own agendas, whatever that may be. A lot of the scaremongering goes on as far as newspaper headlines and things. And good news doesn't sell papers or put people's bums in front of the telly. They like the bad news.
Sometimes, not always.
Okay.
What you're doing here is a good way to combat what has been going on, and I wish you all the best with it.